Hello everyone, and thank you very much for joining. Welcome to our 16th webinar, Teaching and Learning and Assessment in 21st Century Skills. We are still waiting for some participants to join, but at the same time, I guess we can start some housekeeping and information about today's webinar, and at the same time about the speaker and about the content of our event. So my name is Hisham Bendifala, and I will be the moderator of today's webinar. I'm actually an academician in the Czech Republic and in the UK, and I'm very excited to be hosting today's session along with my dear colleague speaker, Zineb Bougherara. Zineb Bougherara is actually the compliance and the coordination manager at the LTA Virtual University, and at the same time, she's a middle school teacher in Algeria. So before I hand the mic to her, before we start the webinar, I would really like to start sharing some housekeeping items and information to cover for this open discussions webinar. So for today's webinar, the recording is going to be available on demand. It's going to be a live session over, and certainly we're going to share the recording with all the participants along in the social media forums and platforms so that the others who have not been able to join can certainly watch and get benefits from this event. So next, we would really love to hear from you, and every participant is allowed to participate and share a thought and opinion or ask a question to the presenter along to myself during the webinar. So Zineb is going to give some time after each slide in which someone of you would like to add a point, someone of you would like to share a collection of his or her experience. So some of the house items really which are important during every event we do for the LTA Virtual University are that every single participant needs to keep himself or herself on mute. So please make sure that you are on mute. Make sure you mute yourself so that we do not get an echo, so that we do not hear kind of that noise or whatever in the place you are in. At the same time, make sure really to ask questions. Really do not hesitate to share your thoughts. Do not hesitate to share your opinion. At the same time, make sure that you do not distract the other participants. You do not distract the speaker along with the event. Thank you very much, everyone. And we are kicking off the webinar in 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hisham. Thank you very much, and welcome to everyone.
Zineb, the mic is yours now. You can start on. Thank you very much. And by the way, you do not have to switch on your cameras. We do not need let's say that people switch on their cameras. So absolutely, you can turn them off. Thank you very much. Toba, you can actually switch off your camera. Thank you very much.
Anlamadım ki.
You can switch off your camera. You don't have to switch it on. No video. There is no video conference of this webinar.
Thank you, Hisham. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Good afternoon to you. I want to welcome you to our 16th webinar of our ELTA Virtual University webinar series. Today's webinar is about teaching, learning in the 21st century. Digital technology, networking, global connection, different stimuli than the previous generation. Students come in as raw materials move from one grade to the next by just memorizing facts without any context, attending lectures passively. This is how the traditional styles used to be, but ICT has already demonstrated the central role in the daily life of these generations. And the time with the civic learning matters, digital literacy matters too. Exploring this civilization in all aspects of life, engaging commerce, art, and architecture, learning languages, experience social life, and see how this great civilization was the foundation of much of our life and best of all, our learning process. And this all could be just done through a video game, align the standards, integrate with a learning management system, and most importantly, work on school hard work. And we do all this with other civilizations. Students become independent learners. And this is our vision, our hope, and we should make it happen. Learners are no longer seen as just learners in the classroom. They are seen as clients, they are seen as students who are actively involved in our society, defend their rights, and be recognized and positive contributions to the state. Can anybody confirm, is my voice here clear? Can you see my screen, sorry?
Yes, Zineb, your voice is very clear and we can see your screen. Thank you very much.
Okay.
You can carry on, go ahead.
Okay. Can you see the second slide, please? Can you confirm this for me?
No, I can see only the first slide. I don't know if you have switched it already or not.
Sorry, I have a problem. I will share my screen again in a few minutes.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can share it once more. Okay, now the screen is very clear. The second one.
So the second point that we are going to tackle is what are the major characteristics of the 21st century's learning and teaching. Here we have some strategies for building technology fluency. Flip your lessons when you ask students to independently acquire content knowledge via video, audio, or text. They have to take ownership of the learning process, create scaffolded challenges, and empower students' leaders. Also, another aspect is building intentional cross-cultural connections and a relationship with others. Also, as a third point, we can say ambitious global community that is aims for public good through students who design and build and share new things offline and online. In other words, the lives of all the kids and families by providing the trustworthy information education. Another aspect is manage, analyze, and synthesize multiple streams of simultaneously presented information. That is to say, we have to use some cognitive activities like analyzing and synthesizing and make a kind of connection between the information we provide. Also, we can create, critic, analyze, and evaluate multimedia messages. This is the learners when they are encountered to, let's say, some materials, some teaching materials, whatever the teaching materials, they have to show some creativity, critical thinking, analytic thinking, and so on and so forth. As the last point, we have attend to ethical responsibilities required by complex environments. All these points could be clearly defined by the so-called the 8 C's, the 3 S's, and 3 M's of the 21st century education. So I know that most of you are familiar with the 4 C's related to the 21st century model or approach. Diving into the 8 C's and beyond, so into the challenge of addressing future learning comes the exploration of global skills that will be necessary across all fields in the new world. So we are going to go quickly through the 4 skills that you already know, maybe, and maybe you know all the 8 C's, and I'm sure that most of you are applying and trying to instill this within your teaching in your classrooms. We start with critical thinking, which is all about creating open challenges for students or for learners that require research, analysis of information, along with the problem solving and the analytic thinking. The second C, it's for the creativity. Being innovative will continue to be the key drive, and by giving, and this is good happen by giving opportunities and environments that allow students to be curious seekers of knowledge. We can lead them to exercise their creative muscles for the future. They will need to design a creative solution, artful stories, and curate a collection of design in the new world. Also, we have the third C, which refers for communication. As we all know, that communication is very crucial in the learning and the teaching process, especially in the field of teaching languages. The quality of your ideas is meaningless if you couldn't communicate them communicating them with your peers, with the others, to express yourself and to craft, analyze the information you give, and to receive in return. Also, we have collaboration. Unlike the traditional method, which the learning was tackled in terms of isolation, collaboration here, we include our learners, or we provide our learners with teamworks and group works through think, pair, sharing, to work together as a team. To help the students to connect, cooperate, compromise, and build a community. This is the forces that I think most of us apply within our teaching, and we have additional forces which are cross-cultural understanding. Since the creation of the internet and ICTs here is very crucial in nowadays, the world has become a much more connected place. And the future will require your students to be able to interact in that space. This is about global citizenship that spans across diverse ethnic groups, cultures, and ideas, and so on. Also, as another skill that both teachers and learners should have is computing technology. While the technology is certain to change, the basic understanding of troubleshooting and logical program creation and design will always be important. It is even more crucial that students learn how to navigate in a world of electronic information and how they can become positive citizens. In other words, positive digital citizens who master the digital skills for a digital world where they are learning and where they are living to. Also, we have career learning. This area encompasses many other jobs and life skills that have always been crucial. This means that everything from setting and achieving goals, managing time, also other things like being organized and effective and dealing positively with the workplace challenges. Also, it entails a kind of self-reliance, self-care, self-evaluation, which are most important parts of a career learning in life, is cultivating the concept that you are considering yourself as a lifelong learner. As an 8Cs, we can add a choice as a characteristic of the classroom of the 21st century, where students are provided with a variety of tasks to meet individual needs as well as learning styles, allowing an element of choice and creating a learning community where students celebrate each other in an important part of this. So these are the 8Cs that we have to include or to demonstrate within in our classes, within our teaching. I have a question for you for that. How will the forces impact your professional development as a 21st century teacher? In other words, what these 8Cs add to your teaching professionally? If you have something to say, if you have any comment, if you have an answer from your experience, I would like to hear from you. Thank you.
Hi, Zineb. I would like at the same time to give a comment to what you've scientifically mentioned, what I've been speaking about for some time, and at the same time give just a little bit an addition to your question. At the same time, it really reflects the impact of the 8Cs, reflect the impact of the new 21st century's learning and teaching skills, among with the new technological designs which have been really deployed in terms of the, let's say, in the word of didactics, in the word of pedagogy, in the word of academics. A greater need to know that, for example, me as a teacher, I feel really there is a very big need to know my students and their mindsets. This is one of the things really that helps me get myself as a teacher and at the same time my students integrated to these 21st century skills. And I think that there seems to be kind of a greater social economy. Let's say in the students' willingness, maybe in the students' mindset to accept the value of education with its new notion, with its new design, and at the same time the need to understand the work that is really different from what it used to be before, which means that being effective, which means that being proactive. So I very much believe that there is kind of a new creativity in developing, let's say, let me call it curriculum. I'm not talking about this academic or the school curriculum, but I'm talking a bit about it as a general autonomy, as a general policy, which really gives a good and a bad aspect, good and a bad impact. So really, talking about the 8Cs, talking about the 3Rs, talking about the 3Ms, whatever. There is a great help, there is a great development, particularly when it comes to a meaningful professional development, professional relationship, and at the same time, the student the student change, the trust, the expertise, the trust, the less ready these automatic, let's say, these automatic approaches, and let's say new methods really which gets to them involved. Let's get to them boarding a new train of studying, a new model of learning. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your additional comments and information. I need to hear from another one. What do they think about the professional development, and how will the 80s impact your professional development as a 21st century teacher? I want really to hear your experiences, to hear your opinions about this. Thank you.
Hello, Zineb. This is Ibtisam. I just would like to add a point, if you don't mind, of course.
Yes, I'd love to.
Thank you. Well, since the 21st century education is the one that responds to many shifts, shifts like social shifts or technological or economical ones, I agree with the point that what you call the career learning. I think you call it like this. So maybe because this education sets children up to succeed in a world where they are going to be exposed to maybe to jobs that don't even exist yet. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. This is exactly what we call the life skills that we need to transfer learning beyond the classroom walls, and we have to apply these skills that we acquire in the classroom to a similar situation where we may need them in the workplace or for job or even for a daily life, for example, traveling or something like that. Thank you for your addition, Ibtisam. Anyone else, please?
Yes, Zainab, if you don't mind me just reading some of the comments in the chat at the same time, maybe some people they don't really have the opportunity or maybe let's say the comfort to speak. I see a message from Julieta M. She's mentioned creativity, communication, collaboration, and criticism. I see Gamza also spoke, or let's say wrote about that collaboration enhances group work skills. This is a very important point. I see also she said that we benefit from these skills while preparing our lessons. Amazing. I see Najed also mentioned that creativity, communication, creativity and communication are like boosters to enhance working in groups. And I see also once more Julieta mentioned that I think the skill that will impact the most in my teaching practice is computing technology, since they have to know how to use these new platforms. Thank you.
Thank you. I really like what I have heard, and it was exactly a kind of an answer for my question. Since professional development must emphasize how to teach critical thinking skills, this can be done effectively in a professional learning communities where colleagues work collaborate together to improve classroom practices and to improve the teaching, to design tailor-made teaching materials, and so on and so forth. We move quickly to configuring the 3 Ls, and which are can be considered as a characteristics or traits for the 21st century learner. What the classroom that does is should what the classroom that does this should really look like. It's a kind of to see how the students or how the classroom is regarded within the 21st century. A number of traits evident in a quality classroom, like for example, openness, positivity, openness, positivity, honesty. So we go through them quickly. Motivating all people innately love learning until they are bored at some points and giving up. Making learning motivating isn't just about making it fun and engaging or giving speakers and getting good grades. We need to make the learning intrinsically motivating by giving students a voice, helping them to set their own goals, and making it challenging. Challenge and struggle are important because nothing that is too easy seems worthwhile. And then you can make learning playful, social, and and uh, entertaining too. So the second M in here is meaningful. So the learning should be meaningful. Students want to connect learning to their lives in a meaningful way. Let them be introduced to solve real world problems and trying to find solution, and allowing an element of choice for them to find out the solution by themselves. And learning is made for everyone. That is to say, to meet all the learners' needs, and to meet all the students' learning styles, and providing them a choice. And this is what's meant by it's made for everyone. It is no longer that we have to focus on some kind of students neglecting the others. We need all the kids or all the students to excel at the higher levels. Sorry, I have tackled the third point, no problem. Now the 3 Ls, which are as personality traits for the learners that we need to have within in our classrooms within the 21st century. First of all, we need the learners to be resilient. So they must be able to withstand failing as well as, and we have to develop this idea that we can learn from our mistakes, from making mistakes, and we have to develop the desire to learn and to succeed once more and to try again. Also, we have to make them reflective. We need to make them reflective in a way that the students should be responsible and make a kind of self-evaluation, self-reflection, both on their success and failure, recognizing their weaknesses and strengths, and find the area where they need to work more and more to find out what are their problems. Also, we need to develop in them the aspect or the spirit of risk taking. They should be risk taker. They have to take educated risk, and it is those and to think outside the box and to try everything new, and never hesitate to make new experiences. And this is not going to help them only in their learning, but in their lives too. As such, I have another question quickly. How do you encourage your learners to be resilient, reflective, and risk takers? Yes.
Sorry, Zineb, could you repeat your question, please?
Well, how could you encourage your students or your learners to be risk takers, to be reflective, and to be resilient? Anyone to answer this question, please, before moving to the next slide?
Zainab, I guess you can move to the next slide. Maybe the participants are going to answer through the chat thread. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Zineb, I have just one suggestion. Hello?
Yes, hello.
So in order to make them more engaging, the teacher should provide them with more engaging speaking activities. For instance, games that especially games, they are very important because most of the learners, they are very shy and they think that they can't express themselves adequately, but through games they can express themselves freely and confidently. So speaking activities, focusing on speaking activities, it's a very important point to have a communicative and interactive classroom, and hence we build a strong personality for our learners and make them resilient, engaging, and good speakers. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I do agree with you. So going to, once we are speaking about the 21st century approach, we cannot speak it without going or speaking about the student-centered learning. And here I provide you with a kind of the key principle for students learning, which is learning is personalized in a way Personalized learning happens when the teacher knows the students, has strong relationships with them, and know a lot about their needs, where they are, and their level when they are, and their development. The second principle is learning is competency based. Learning is about the information and the skills that all the students has mastered, not just moving through a curriculum. From a curriculum to mastering a kind of memorizing something or something like that. But they have to be engaged in a they have to develop competencies and skills. Learning happens anytime and anywhere. And this is when students will often make important discoveries about themselves, about the world around them, when they learn beyond the traditional schools and outside the school's walls. Learning doesn't start and stop, as we can say, when the bell rings. They have to have everlasting outcomes in the real world. Students should take ownership. We never take decision about students without involving them themselves in taking this decision about their learning. Here we are developing the confidence. We are developing learners' autonomy and making them responsible for their own learning. And as such, we will have a very good learning outcomes. I have a question. How could this principle be applied in the 21st century classrooms?
Hello again. Maybe through collaboration work, teamwork, pair work, TPS. No?
Yes, we can apply them from via providing these learners with this type of activities. Any other suggestions, please?
Yes, me. Good morning. I have problem to speak in English. I have many ideas for. It's very interesting that you expose it because I'm teacher at the university, and in my opinion, hello.
Yes, feel free to express yourself the way you want. Yes, thank you.
I express myself. I will try to express myself because it's very interesting topics. In my case, I use, for example, in order to improve the learning of that the students maybe be performance the performance of the learning of students is to give them a task of a lesson. They can prepare the lesson, and after they can I do with them like seminar, and they give their opinion, and it will give to the students self-confidence, in my opinion. Did you get what I
Yes, I get your point. Yes, I get your point. You want to say that involving the learners in making their own tasks and involving them to give opinion about their about a task, and involving, for example, you can also involve them in peer correction, and this is enhance or boost their self-confidence, and it is a good practice. Thank you for your great idea. Thank you so much. We move to the second question. Sorry, we move.
Zineb, I'm sorry, just got to read three comments. One is from Julieta, just in response to your question. She answered by, maybe when we set new tasks and ask the students to do them in a creative way. Another way, Hafid answered, said that we can do this through role playings. So, I mean, students get really to play different roles, let's say, in doing tasks and activities. Gladina answered by interdisciplinary projects given to children, get them involved and integrated, and at the same time analyzing the work individually and come forth with their assumptions. Yeah. got really, let's say, I can't read lots of the comments, but I'm just going one by one in each slide it gets. Thank you so much. Carry on.
Yes, thank you for your answers. All the mentioned tasks and activities are relevant to apply this principle in your classrooms within your teaching. Now, a second question is, what are the features of the learner's character and the environment within the centered learning approach according to you? You can share or you can answer from your teaching experiences.
Zineb, can you repeat the question, please? Got some some participants asking to get you saying the question once more. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Madam, good evening. My time is from India, 7 o'clock evening. So my question is to you that some students are shy, they're not involving in the lesson. How to make them involve in the project or in the lesson?
Yes.
Some other, have you got it? Some members are not involving because of their shyness or lack of interest. Some other maybe, but how to make them to involve in the project?
Well, let me.
Zineb, carry on, please. We can hear you.
Let me say a question. What are the features of the 21st century, or what are the personality traits of a 21st century learner? And how can you describe the environment, the teaching environment within the 21st century approach?
Hello. Sorry, all the students may not be get motivated into the lesson. Some members are get deviated from the subject. That is why how can we encourage them to get involved in the teaching?
Yeah, thank you, Krum, for the question. Well, generally talking, Zineb, if you may allow me just a few seconds, just to give maybe this is one of the things really all of the time asking about how to get involved those students who are shy, have not got the opportunity to speak or to get into the projects we work on. But most of the times, it's just really the relationship that the teacher built in terms of supporting the environment of all the students. So we are talking about mixed abilities in most of the time. At the same time, when we are talking about speaking, because most of the involvement is related to speaking, we do not have to put pressure only on speaking. Maybe the students, they need at the very beginning some non-verbal options, some non-verbal actions to start with. They need maybe a different involvement in terms of writing, in terms of reading, in terms of doing, let's say, some pieces of homework. And at the same time, get the collaborative learning. There exists something that every teacher is actually supposed to work with, which is the collaborative learning. The students at a certain time are not really set into the module of getting to be involved at the very first time, but within the collaborative learning, within the let's say within the approach of making the students feel needed in our classes, making them, let's say, or giving them new options, let's say non-verbal options, is absolutely a great way to have them involved. It's absolutely a great help to have them, let's say, get out of their shyness and start participating and taking part of those projects. This is just briefly. Unfortunately, this really needs a complete topic, so we cannot go very much into the details for that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
One more question. How can we can deal with in the hyperactive or naughty children in the class? Hello.
Can you repeat the question, please?
How to handle the hyperactive students or naughty children in the classroom?
I'm sorry, I did not really get the question, and I did not hear you. Got voice cutting over.
How to handle?
Okay, can you just write your question on the chat thread, and I'm going to answer it later on. Thank you. Just write your question on the chat thread. Thank you.
We can hear your question. You can type it on the chat thread, and we are going to answer you later on because we have to move to something else right now. Sorry for interrupting. Now we have I want to say an idea before we move into the next slide. In looking beyond the essential skills, we begin to think about both the type of the person we want our learners to become, to succeed, and the type of the environment we need to create. And here we move backward to what we have seen in the previous slide, the 3 I's and the 4 M's. Categorizing the skills. Categorizing the skills, the 21st century skill can be categorized under 3 umbrella terms. It's okay just to organization. It's ways of thinking. So using these skills, students would be critical thinkers and can think critically and creatively, and could be problem solvers. They could find a solution to their own problems or with their peers. And the ways of working, it refers to the communication and collaboration, and the tools. We need information literacy and ICT literacy that we are going to tackle in a coming slide later on. We move to the third slide. Can you see my slide?
Not yet. I guess just need some seconds to load over. Okay, go ahead. It's visible. Thank you.
Thank you. So since we are talking about the learning process and the teaching process, we cannot speak about them without going to the assessment process. We have how to assess learning and giving feedback and so on and so forth. Through the last, what should the assessment be like in the 21st century? Through the last few decades, paper and pen tests have been the main method used to assess educational outcomes. And the challenge here is how to have this shift from assessment using traditional methods to a new ones. Enough proxies of academic skills where testing processes are implemented using traditional methods that everyone find convenient, systematic, and cost-effective. In addition to the acquisition of these skills, we need new assessment method, new proxies, and new methods of assessment. For that, I think that the assessment should be balanced, inclusive of all students, and designed to support improvement at all levels to meet all the needs of the mixed ability classes. Assessment should also be responsive and feedback. Formative assessment provide opportunities for reflection and revision. This is not related only to formal assessment, where formal assessment for example, for exams or something else, but we can have from time to time a kind of peer correction or giving direct feedback that boosts the learning process. For example, you can provide a motivational sheets for your learners, and each time they have mastered a skill or have something good, you provide them with a motivational sheet. This is make the learners know a lot about their improvement. Also, it is making them challenging their peers and so on and so forth. It should be also flexible, and the assessment and the responses of the students need to be flexible, keeping in mind that their decision, application, and actions vary. That is to say that they have to provide different and create new things, not retelling or restating what they have learned, but to apply for new situation, for new tricks that they have to decide about themselves. Assessment need to be integrated within context, and we don't. For example, we are not going to test only one skill. We can test more than one skill within the same assessment. Assessment stimulates thinking, builds prior knowledge, constructs meaning, and use metacognition. For example, here using the problem-solving skills, and they could criticize, they could evaluate, they could give opinion, and so on and so forth. And for that, we can use methods for assessment, and we have to vary the methods that we use for assessment, not the same way all the time. Assessment include strategies, the process, and the product, and the learning is emphasized here. Assessment should be also communicated, and the results of these assessments should routinely provided to the learners to develop themselves, to make them responsible for their own learning, to find where to make more efforts to get improvements, and so on and so forth. We have to be selective and use technically sound formal and informal assessment that minimize bias. Also, the assessment should be precise and technically sound, producing accurate information for decision making in all circumstances. For the strategies that we may use for assessment within the 21st century, and there are some, and you may have more than this, and you are going to, and maybe you are using your own assessment strategies. We can use rubrics, checklists, self-assessment, reflection, peer reviews, teacher observation, logos, journals, and questionnaires.
Zineb, I would like to ask just all the participants, you can see the screen, right? You can see the slide, actually, assessment in the 21st century, right? Can someone confirm, please?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Zineb, continue, please.
Okay. I have a question, sorry. Where are we, in your opinion, where are we today in assessment of the 8 C's? Not assessment of the content or in the assessment of skills. Where are we today in the assessment of the 8 C's, according to you?
Or maybe you can reformulate the question in another way, Zineb. Maybe the question was not understood well. If you could just re-ask it once more in a different way. Thank you.
Well, all right. So, in your opinion, how do we assess the 8 C's within our practices? How do we assess the skills, or do we really assess the skills? It's up to you. Is it clear now?
Yeah, the question is clear for me, but I'm just I was worried if the participants did not understand the question.
For me, it's not clear, please, about the assessment. I understand what about the assessments. We need to have the feedback of the students in order to improve our methods of learning. That's right?
Yes, somehow.
Yes.
The question is about how are you, as a teacher, as a 21st century teacher, assessing your students in terms of the 8 C's. I mean, critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and so on and so forth. In which way you are assessing your students, focusing on the skills, not on the content?
Hi, I hope I understand truly. I think a teacher should vary all the approaches and assessment strategies, both quantity and both quality ways. But I want to ask you that there's just one system that is competitive and based on quantitative assessed system, and whether the teacher in classroom does everything, varies every strategies for assessment or creativity or imagination, reflection, all of these skills so beneficial and crucial for our students. But I think this kind of skills could be accomplished by a whole understanding for community. If a community thinks that being successful at the system, being a doctor, being an engineer is so important, that means that quantity is so crucial, then varying all of these activities or strategies is not so beneficial, I think.
Yes, I do agree. Moving to the next slide, can someone confirm that we have already moved?
Okay.
Can you see the next screen?
Well, it takes some seconds, maybe it's a load, but yes, I will tell you once it's over. Okay, you can go ahead.
Since we are talking about the 21st century, we have to speak about ICTs and the ICT literacy. If you answer for all of these 4 questions by yes, so you have a kind of ICT literacy. Can you contribute to social networks to build and integrate communities, call for action, or spread the word about opportunities? Do you understand how ICT tools operate so you can use these resources to build up collective personal understanding? Can you contribute the shared resources by creating, organizing, and uploading information or knowledge? And can you use digital resources to get information you need? If you can answer this question, or if your answer is yes, so we have somehow you already know what is ICT literacy. Which briefly, it is the ability to use the digital technology, communication tools, and networks to define an information, need, access, manage, integrate, evaluate information, create information or knowledge, to be able to communicate this information with others. We can here highlight a 5 principal or essential component of ICT literacy, which is access, integrate, manage, evaluate, and create. ICT is not about just knowing how to use technology. It is about how to navigate, or how it is about navigating and communicating for different digital environments. My question here, how does ICT impact teaching and learning? Quickly, please, if any one of you could answer this. What impact ICT have on teaching and learning?
Hi, this is Gladina here.
Yeah, welcome. Go ahead.
Actually, after the use of ICT, the teaching has become more creative and effective, and the students are able to understand in a much better way compared to the traditional method of teaching with the blackboard or the whiteboard and the markers. It has become more of a reality kind of teaching after the use of after the implementation of ICT in the classrooms. I believe so.
Zainab, for my dad, also something that the ICT is actually empowered and it's still empowering the teachers and the learners, and at the same time really works in transforming the teaching and the learning processes from being, if I might call it, highly teacher dominated to student centered, or to students domination. And this transformation actually resulted in the increase of the learning gains for the students, particularly for the students. Thank you.
Thank you, Hisham, for your addition. Going to the next point, which is bridging the gap between the concept of the 21st century skills and reality of implementation. Viewing education as a driver to develop highly skilled youth, students, citizens, and meet the need of the knowledge society represents a kind of a paradigm shift from the beginning of the 21st century. This shift has caused policymakers, stakeholders to pay attention more to school performances. And to raise their expectation about the quality and the scope of the services delivered in school. For that, this is demonstrated by identifying effective use of the 21st century skills already occurring in your classroom. Celebrate here. It is an attempt to self-evaluate your teaching and to which extent you are integrating 8Cs, the 3Rs, and the 3Ms in your classrooms. A second point that we can talk about is adding an aspect of the 21st century to an already good teaching and learning process. Education is the key to the global integrated framework of sustainable development goals. It is at the heart of our efforts both to adapt and to change and to transform the world within which we live. Also, modifying or replacing an existing curriculum by, for example, providing a kind of, for example, transforming or adapting the textbook materials and make it more communicative, providing tailor-made activities where you are going to test the skills or include the problem-solving activities and so on and so forth. Also, we can have consider initiatives underway. Do they represent an opportunity to infuse the 21st century into an existing structures? I will say it in other words, this question. Do you think that the existing curricula, give us the opportunity as a teachers to infuse the 21st century elements?
Zineb, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Do you consider that the existing curricula that we have given us as teachers, given the teachers the opportunity to infuse the 21st century elements? elements, I mean here this the skills.
Yes. Hi. I think the present curriculum, the teachers, we have to incorporate the skills that we want to teach the students into our curriculum, into our already existing curriculum. We have to find the means and way of introducing, I think. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Zineb.
Yes.
Zineb, can I speak? So there is something that I want to discuss about is that the speaking skill is never taken in consideration where assessing. Even though we teach our learners how to speak adequately, how to cooperate, how to solve problems in communicative situations, but speaking is not included in assessment. So it's this is which is lacking in our this is which is lacking in the current assessment. That's it.
Yes, I think it is lacking in terms that you can include it yourselves through the everyday interactions. Here you can assess your students through observation, through project work when they present. You can assess them in terms of the speaking skill as the speaking skill is concerned. Thank you. I think we don't have enough time. We have to move.
Zineb, you're on mute. I guess you were speaking on mute.
You didn't answer. Okay. Well, so I have said that you can use the assessment when the learners present in projects. For example, you can assess the speaking skills, the skills in everyday interaction and so on and so forth. Since we don't have much time, we have to move to the last slide, I think, which is traditional versus 21st century education. Can you confirm if you can see it?
Yes, I confirm.
Is it clear?
Yeah.
As we have mentioned before, the teaching style have changed significantly over the years, over decades. The traditional way that education was delivered through memorization of fact without context, whereas the 21st century education, the modern way of doing things, involve interactive methods. Here we mentioned some points concerning the traditional and comparing the traditional with the 21st century. Here we have the traditional used to be teacher-centered, and the teacher was the only source of the knowledge, and the students sitting passively and receiving the information, doing nothing, and they are tested by the tests designed to measure how much content they could remember. It is not the case. In the 21st century, learners are really responsible at the center of the learning process. Also, we have textbook. The traditional they rely too much on the textbook. They read the textbook. They can even learn the textbook. But within the 21st century, they are involved in initial problem-solving situation where they have to identify their problems and try to find solution and make research to find out their learning. They are passive learners versus active learners, where they are actively engaged in the learning process. Memorization, and here we have project-based. We are not focusing on memorization anymore. We have the retelling and discovering on the other part, information transfer in the traditional methods shift into information exchange where something that the learners have learned or have grasped, they apply it to a new situation and create new things and new holes and draw conclusions. Instead of working alone and every student addressed alone, they develop teamworks. We have team building, we have collaboration, and so on and so forth. The teacher used to be the only authority, whereas today's teachers are just facilitators, guides who help the learners to achieve certain learning objectives. Another point is a teacher may say, I taught them the materials, it's up to them to learn it. So they have to learn everything by heart, but the students need to transfer the knowledge to real life situation and to create new holes and so on and so forth. There was no freedom, whereas here we have some freedom. There was full of discipline problems, but in the modern ways, very few discipline problems because the learners are involved, are motivated, are engaged, are responsible for their own learning process. They made the classroom rules by themselves, and they are likely to obey them within the 21st century education. The curriculum is integrated in the 21st century, and it is connected to the learner's interests, needs, and talents. Whereas it was just fragmented curriculum in the traditional methods. Low expectation for the traditional, and we have really high expectation in terms of the type of the citizens that we would like to have after a time of instruction. The teacher is regarded as a jazz, whereas here it is a worldwide audience within the online platforms that we have. And this is how we can contrast that we have traditional versus the central education. If you have any points you not mentioned, you need to add concerning the comparison between the traditional methods and the modern or the 21st century education. You are welcome. Your comments are welcome.
Thank you, Zineb. I don't know if anyone else has got something to add, has got a question. But we are 7 minutes about the already agreed time set for our webinars.
Yes.
Yeah, let's just give 30 seconds or 1 minute if someone would like really to add something.
Yes, hello, my name is Iman. So I want to just add something that the traditional method of teaching, for example, the grammar teaching, memorization, it can be still adapted, but in some cases, for example, in classes where we teach what do we call it, translation, for example, translation or business. So here we can always teach the old traditional method. And another thing, there was a question at the beginning of the webinar. It was how to integrate our learners or how to foster them to speak. There are many methods. For example, the storytelling. It is very nice technique to foster our learners to speak, interact. And there is debate, there are discussion, there are questionnaire. So all these are techniques to encourage our learners to be critical thinkers, and good speakers in the classroom or even outside the classroom. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Iman, so much. Zainab, maybe you can just move to the last slide so that we just sum up everything and go for the wrap up.
Excuse me, can I add just one?
Yes, we will be glad to. Thank you.
Yes, hello again. It's I'm Jalila. So for me, especially the important point that I can talk about the new methods of education is that it encourage the communication of students. This is the great important point in my opinion, because in traditional education, the student that doesn't speak, they have less interaction between the teacher and the student. The unique actor in the classroom is the teacher and not the students. This is the first point. For the second point, in my opinion, is the knowledge. They have the application. They have application of the knowledge that the students acquire. Yes, the acquisition of the knowledge is in the. They have application, like innovative project of the students. This is the 2 points that I think that the 20 years first century give to the students, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really, it was an interesting discussion. It was I saw very interesting interventions, interesting questions and answers on the chat threads. At the same time, I wanted to say that most of the topics we've been talking, let's say in some of the slides, like assessment, like skills, like categorization of the learning processes. We already have webinars. Let's say in the very past we had some of the webinars talking about assessment, some others on the mixed abilities, on the large classrooms, on the integration of students. Later on, you're going to receive the email of the sum up also with all the information, with all our recorded webinars. So in case you really are interested to know more about these elements, you can check our previous webinars in the recordings you're going to receive by email. One more thing before we wrap up. I would like to ask you kindly once more to write your names on the chat threads, so that we can make sure that we write your names correctly in your certificates to be awarded to you. And at the same time, if you cannot see the chat thread on the MS Teams, you can just reply to the last email you received by your full name. That's okay. So that we make sure that we award the certificates only to the people who participated and joined the whole webinar. I thank you very much for your attention, for your questions, for your participation today. Looking forward to meeting you on the 20th of August next week with a new session, with a new speaker, with a new experience of the ELT Virtual University. You can also follow us on Facebook so that you see our news. You can follow up our events and all our programs that are coming in the very near future. I thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.